What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston podcast where every Monday we discuss the last week in nerddom. And over this last week, D23EXPO happened over in Anaheim, California, and there's a bunch of new news coming from that and projects that we can look forward to for the future and stuff that got confirmed from Marvel, like the X-Men cast is mostly confirmed, and they still said that more people will be confirmed down the line, but for the core crew that they have and the main villain for X-Men, all of that got revealed, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the episode. They also talked Avengers Doomsday. Visionquest released its first trailer, and both of those trailers are already broken down and videos are uploaded on the channel for that, so go check out those if you haven't. Earlier today, the Ahsoka Season 2 trailer came out, so go check that out as well. A little bit of Star Wars news in the middle of this podcast. But also, last week, the House of the Dragon finale happened. We're going to talk about how the viewership went down for that. And also last night, it's been a busy week, man. Last night, Lanterns dropped its season premiere on HBO. Didn't even get a week off, right? Like, House of the Dragon ended last Sunday. This Sunday, we got fucking Lanterns, and now it looks like Lanterns is going to be going for like the next 7 or 8 weeks or so, you know, depending on how many episodes it has. But episode 1 was a complete banger, and I didn't think I was going to love Lanterns as much as I do so far. And through one episode, I'm ecstatic to see the rest of that season. So a breakdown for Lanterns episode 1 will be coming out later today or tomorrow morning. But let's jump on into all of the news from last week, shall we? First up, talking about HBO still, it seems like there was a report coming from the Ankler, so I don't know if this is like a podcast kind of more like the Schneider podcast, you know, where it's like maybe just them speculating. I don't know if this is like fully confirmed, like from a Deadline or like a Hollywood Reporter, but apparently HBO rejected a pitch for a Catwoman series starring Zoe Kravitz. So that would have been probably along the lines of like the Penguin series they did, but having a solo series for Zoe Kravitz Catwoman. And I don't know why they wouldn't do that, you know, like that seems like a show people would watch. They could also tie in the Penguin stuff, right? So it's kind of a Penguin season 2, but it's also a Catwoman season 1, and they could tie in her sister, Sophia Falcone, you know what I mean? And like all of that shit. And I heard that Zoe Kravitz might not have a big role in the Batman Part 2, or might not be in the Batman Part 2 at all, which I feel like is just such a missed opportunity. I mean, maybe she can come back in like a trilogy or in another movie down the line, but she was such a big role in the Batman Part 1, I kind of wanted to see the Bat and the Cat back together again, but maybe there's a new love interest for Bruce in Batman Part 2. Rumor recently was that Scarlett Johansson's character is actually Poison Ivy, so that could be really interesting. But I'm sure we'll have more info about the Batman Part 2 coming down the line, and HBO, I'm sure, will be making more movies and shows with DC Studios' team, like they are currently with Lanterns, because Peacemaker was a hit for them, and now it looks like Lanterns is going to be another hit for them, and Penguin was a hit for them. So it looks like these R-rated DC shows are actually doing quite well for the platform. And, you know, like, fuck them kids. We need more R-rated stuff, you know. That's why I love HBO so much. And speaking of the people over at HBO, and House of the Dragon Season 3 apparently reached an average viewership of 33 million global viewers per episode, and that was confirmed from Warner Brothers Discovery. And like, it makes sense, and that was something that came out before the finale, so I'm sure with that finale week maybe the numbers even went up, you know. But House of the Dragon Season 3 was a banger of a season, and the showrunner Ryan Condal teased Season 4, saying that Season 4 is going to be even bigger. We have new characters, new dragons, and new locations all to come that I think are going to make it a very worthy final season. So who are these new dragons and new characters that we haven't met yet? And we're going to new locations in the Game of Thrones universe that we haven't been to? Or just new locations that the House of the Dragon crew haven't been to. But either way, you know, expanding the final season, like expanding the lore of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon in its final season feels a little weird, you know, unless they just want to really make every episode just a jam-packed, you know, episode. But if it's going to be anything like a slow burn like it has been for season 2 and season 3, you know what I mean? Like, we don't need the slow burn for the final season. I want us to have, you know, the battles in the first 2 episodes, and then I want us to have the aftermath for the remaining 6. You know, like, I don't want the end of season 4 to be Rhaenyra dying and that's it. You know, like, I want the end of season 4 to be that Kragan Stark stuff. You know what I mean? If you know, you know. But I need more Starks in my life, especially after Roddy the Ruin, my fucking guy. Oh, God. And poor Rhaenyra, now Queen of the Bastards, you know, and after her decision-making in the series, I'm really not sure if I'm Team Black anymore, or if now maybe I'm Team Green. You know, like, maybe I want to see Aegon become king again. You know, he had a whole redemption arc in this season that made me actually really like Aegon. And I mean, Tom Glenn Carney just absolutely kills it as Aegon. He so funny, but I felt like Aemon One Eye was maybe sidelined this season, you know, the one-eyed coward Aemon One Eye, and you know, like, where was Vhagar this season? We need more of that. And honestly, we just could have gotten way more Roddy the Ruin, you know, like, he's just the GOAT, and he's such a legend. Fuck them kids, how he slashed that kid with an axe in the final episode, so fucking funny. But, you know, Tommy Flanagan, absolute legend. We need to see him working in far more stuff. You know, I would have a whole spin-off series of called The Winter Wolves, just following Roddy the Ruin in his journey from the north down to the, you know, King's Landing and whatnot. Oh, so good. But it looks like House of the Dragon Season 4, we're going to have a nice long wait until 2028 for that, so that shouldn't be coming for 2 more years. But luckily, we will have A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms Season 2. I believe I just saw that it wrapped recently, and that should be coming early 2027 or some point next year. So we should be getting seasons of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms every year, which is awesome. I love that. And HBO also confirmed that the Aegon Conquests movie is still in the works, so that should be coming down the line at some point as well, and I'm sure we'll have more information about that when that, you know, goes into production. But, like, I don't know, who would you want to fan cast as Aegon the Conqueror? I'm thinking maybe like a Henry Cavill, but also, more importantly than like Aegon himself and what they're doing, they need to nail the size and the look of Balerion the Black Dread, because that is the most impressive dragon in all of Westeros, and he's ginormous and like should be the biggest dragon we've ever seen. You know, so we really need to feel that size and scale, and it just needs to look perfect if it's going to be on a movie screen too. You know, it's going to be big. Like, yeah, I can't wait for that, and I'm sure we'll have more news about House of the Dragon as we head into next year with the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and whatnot. But all breakdowns for House of the Dragon and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms are currently up on the channel, so go check out those videos if you haven't already. But also, in kind of HBO news, the Harry Potter series is casting for season 2 right now, and Variety confirmed that Nicholas Hoult is to play Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter, the HBO series, season 2. So, very interesting. Nicholas Hoult, you know, coming off of like Lex Luthor for like James Gunn's DCU, and he's going to be Lex Luthor in Man of Tomorrow, and he's going to be Gilderoy Lockhart in HBO's Harry Potter. I feel like that's actually great casting, you know, like I feel like Nicholas Hoult's going to play that character so well, although the original Gilderoy Lockhart was quite fucking funny in the original Harry Potter movies. But he didn't have much time to be a character, right? Like, he was kind of in and then he was kind of out, where like the whole season of season 2, I feel like Nicholas Hoult will be that character much more and have more screen time than, say, Gilderoy Lockhart did in the movies, you know what I mean? But in other news, it is currently said that John Cena is in talks to play the live-action version of Johnny Bravo, which I feel like is perfect casting, not only by personality and like size. Like, you know, the only thing that John Cena doesn't have is the giant blonde hair, but, you know, at this point currently he's got like a shaved head, so maybe that's where he's thinking. He's like, alright, I'm not gonna have hair for my movies for at least a year or so, so I'll grow this out underneath a bald cap as I wear this Johnny Bravo wig every day. And Johnny Bravo is one of the few Cartoon Network shows that I grew up on that I absolutely loved, and just like, oh, baby. You know, like, Johnny Bravo is so funny, and I feel like John Cena has that personality in spades, you know, just being himself, and his name's John, so John is going to be Johnny Bravo. Hey! Shout out Mr. John Cena. Love that. But moving on into some James Bond casting news, and there's been a new strongly considered choice for the role, and apparently it is Jack Lowden, who some people said he was from the show Slow Horses with Gary Oldman, and I heard that show is good. I haven't necessarily seen it myself, so maybe I'll have to go check that out to see if this Jack Lowden is any good, but it said that he is being strongly considered as the next James Bond, according to Richard Osmond, the British TV host, and he said that someone told me for definite who the new Bond is. And I don't know if I believe this British TV host, you know, unless they know Denis Villeneuve, because I think, you know, even if it's like the Broccoli Company and Amazon Prime that's like has the final decision on who Bond is, it's Denis Villeneuve's movie. So I feel like if Denis Villeneuve has a Bond in mind, that's who it is. You know what I mean? And I know he's currently working on that now. So I'm hoping maybe by Christmas, you know, by the end of the year, we have the next James Bond cast, you know, already announced. And I would really love for it to be known out there to get me more excited. I would love to have a James Bond release date, but I'm not sure. Maybe Denis Villeneuve is waiting to really dive into the script for Bond until after he's done editing Dune Part 3, because that still comes out in December, so I'm sure he's still in the editing process for that and really polishing that movie to make sure it looks perfect before hitting the screens on December, you know, and that's the end of his trilogy, so I'm sure he doesn't necessarily want to let go of that right away. You know, he's probably putting his final touches on it, and then he'll go on to do James Bond, and that will be a phenomenal movie, I already know. But comment below, have you seen Slow Horses? Do you know this Jack Lowden? Or do you have any other James Bonds that you would fan cast for the role? Currently for me, I'm more of like a Charlie Hunnam, Jacob E. Elordi, maybe even a Tom Holland. I mean, shit, maybe even a Chalamet, but I feel like they're not going to go with an American. I feel like it needs to be a Brit. And if they're going to go that route, why not like a Tom Holland? At least the character that could then do stunts and flips and whatnot. But I don't know if you could be Spider-Man and James Bond at the same time. That might be too greedy. You know, like, I don't know, maybe they need to find somebody more, you know, unknown. But moving on more into some of that D23 news, and Marvel and Star Wars are apparently getting shelved a little bit by Disney, because Disney is reportedly prioritizing animation over live action for Marvel Studios and Star Wars. An animation series can be fast-tracked on a much smaller budget than movies, right? So if they have to go, hey, you have to work overtime, they can do that easier and make those artists work double time, but they can't do that as easy for movies, you know what I mean? If they want to rush a movie budget, that ends up, you know, doubling the budget or whatnot. Like, yeah, or like they can't rush a movie and it gets, you know, delayed, and then they have to delay, and that costs more money. I don't know, you know, and I also feel like with anime and how much animation has just really flourished all across the world, and how big it is over in Japan and whatnot, and, you know, even over here in America now, like the amount of people that are obsessed with One Piece and like really obsessed with animation. I haven't fully dove into like the One Piece and whatnot, but like growing up, I was an Avatar: The Last Airbender guy, you know, like I fuck with animation pretty hard. And like just coming off of X-Men 97 season 2, that was some of the best animation I've ever seen, and just like great storytelling, right? Like that show, X-Men 97, has now made me fall in love with the X-Men, and in a way that like the early movies never made me do. You know, like I was in love with Wolverine's Hugh Jackman, I was in love with Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier, and Ian McKellen's Magneto. Those were really my guys from those those OG X-Men movies. It never really made me love the team of the X-Men, you know what I mean? Maybe Nightcrawler has always been my go-to, but like, this X-Men 97 season 2 was so good, and it had a nice post-credit scene teasing the next season, you know, so it's got me even more excited for when that comes back. And hopefully we won't have to wait 2 years for X-Men 97 season 3, and hopefully they'll have this, you know, on a budget in a schedule that we'll be able to get this once a year. We also are going to be getting more animation from Marvel in January, and I'm sure from Star Wars we'll have Maul Shadow Lord season 2 coming next year at some point as well, and that season 1 was really good. And breakdowns for both of those shows are currently up on the channel, so go check those out. But speaking of Star Wars and Marvel, there has been announced that there will be the first ever Marvel and Star Wars comic book crossover, and Kevin Smith will write the Star Wars / Marvel Hope Assembles, a 5-part comic that takes place in the primary continuity of Marvel Comics Earth 616. Interesting. So he's writing a full comic that is set in our current world that will cross over with Star Wars? I feel like that's fascinating. And there's some art from these comics, and you have like Luke Skywalker standing next to Spider-Man and Captain America, Hulk, and then there's like X-Wings in the background. Dr. Doom and Darth Vader are like the villains. That's interesting, man. That really is. And it's like a Quinjet with like an X-Wing. Oh god, I love that so much. And then they have like a villains poster with like Dr. Doom, Darth Vader, Thanos, Ultron, Greedo, Venom, Moff Tarkin, or whatever his name is. Yeah, oh, yeah, no. And then this final one here that I thought was cute too, with like Black Widow, C-3PO, R2-D2, Leia, The Thing, the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, Thanos up in the corner with like a Star Destroyer and friggin' Darth Vader up there. Like, yeah, no, those are just really cool images, and I didn't realize how much I would have loved to see my two favorite things, Star Wars and Marvel, cross over with each other, you know? Like, this might be a comic book that I dive into so headfirst and I'm actually in love with. And Kevin Smith is really talented, so I'm glad that he's doing that. That seems like something that should have been done a long time ago. And the fact that it's only 5 parts, like, make that, you know, an ongoing series. Why not? And honestly, I hope Kevin Smith does so well on that series that that ends up being something that happens in the actual live-action universe, and we get a Star Wars and Marvel crossover. Like, why not? Marvel's already a cosmic thing. Why not interact with a galaxy far, far away? There's literally no rules saying that Star Wars and Marvel can't be in the same universe. There's nothing that says they can't. But speaking of Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu got announced that they will have their release date on Disney Plus now, coming to streaming September 2nd. And I believe it's currently up for rent right now, and I've been wanting to see The Mandalorian and Grogu again. So luckily I'll be able to be patient for another couple weeks and wait until September 2nd, and this will be coming to Disney Plus for me to be able to watch for free. But now to get into more of the D23 news, and there is quite a bit of it, so this will be a lengthier pod, I'm sorry, but I'll try to get through it as fast as possible. And D23 was over the weekend, and some Star Wars stuff was on display, and they had Ahsoka Season 2's poster, and this Season 2 will be coming January 20th, so starting out the year with some Star Wars stuff. And the trailer for Ahsoka Season 2 looks so good, and there's a breakdown that came out for that this morning on the channel, and yeah, it looks really good, so go check out that video and tell me your thoughts on the Ahsoka Season 2 trailer. But they had some outfits on display, and they showed like a bunch of the costumes, and the picture I grabbed was of Anakin's costume, because Anakin Skywalker will be returning in Season 2 of Ahsoka for like more flashbacks of like a younger Ahsoka during the Clone Wars with her master, Anakin, and also Anakin's Force Ghost will be there talking to an older Rosario Dawson Ahsoka. But it seems like they're going to be on some snowy planet with like this snowy Jedi gear for Anakin, and I actually quite like it, you know, like with the fur hood and whatnot. And I'm just so glad Hayden Christensen is back, like my fucking guy. I love Anakin so much. But then Star Wars had a panel with Sean Levy bringing out Ryan Gosling, and like he brought him out to like the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which was like Ryan's first interaction with Disney when he was a kid, and they brought him out, and like, it's just funny that that they brought him out as like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. He had like his whole jacket on, and then he made him switch his jackets to the Star Wars Starfighter jacket, which I'm not sure if this is just like a jacket that they made for him after the fact, or if this is a jacket that he wears in the movie. But either way, he says, like, he gives him this jacket, and it's got the symbol of his character, who is named Cade, and it looks like it's got an upside down rebel symbol, and then it's got two blasters that are crossed, and it looks like a skull and crossbones logo. But, you know, Gosling says his character is from the wrong side of the galaxy, whose fate is intertwined with the fastest starfighter ever built. Yeah, no, so like the trailer for this, I mean, there was like a little sneak peek that got released, and then all of them kept getting taken down and like copyright strike. So I was like, why are they like holding Star Wars Starfighter? Like, this movie comes out next year. Like, I need to see a trailer for this, and it's apparently been ready for some time. Star Wars must really just be polishing Star Wars Starfighter and just making it look so shiny and spectacular, right? Like, and maybe Sean Levy's still in like the editing process for the movie, but this is definitely my most anticipated movie of 2027 at this point, is Star Wars Starfighter. I cannot wait to see more from this movie. And honestly, the fact that like Star Wars Starfighter, I'm that hype about that movie, it makes me even more hype for Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling to then go on and do the Ghost Rider movie with Marvel after that, you know? Like, yeah, I love that those two found each other and they have like a little partnership going on. And I'm sure after he's done with Ghost Rider, Sean Levy will link up with his other boy, Ryan Reynolds, and he'll do Deadpool fucking 4. But comment below, are you excited for Star Wars Starfighter? And then just to like run through some D23 panel news as they were having it on stage, Anne Hathaway came out to talk about the Princess Brides, and I don't know if there's like an anniversary, but she said they're also trying to get the Princess Brides 3 to be in the works, and they're trying to figure that out. And, you know, she was funny on stage, and Anne Hathaway, as she's been pregnant, has just been bubbling with personality and glowing, and her laugh has been through the roof. I've been in love with Anne Hathaway through her press tour the last couple months. They also announced the new Simpsons movie will be coming, so another Simpsons movie. So, I mean, I remember, I never liked the Simpsons show, but I did like the Simpsons movie when I was growing up. Like, I remember, like, the picture, like, the poster had, like, a strawberry frosted donut with a bite taken out of it. Yeah, you know, like, I've never been full invested into The Simpsons, but I did like that movie. I can't say I didn't. There was also a panel for the 40th anniversary of Pixar, and they've been making animated movies for 40 years. God damn, that makes me feel old. How long ago? Well, I guess it was what, 11, 12 years before I was born. So that means their first Pixar movie that was animated probably came out in like 87, if my math is correct there. 40 years, yeah, 86 maybe. So what was the first ever Pixar project? If you know what that is, comment down below. Maybe I'll go check that out this week. But speaking of animation, there was a Coco 2 got announced. I believe this will be coming in 2029, which is like a big old 8-year or 12-year time gap from the 2017 first Coco film. And it seems like the young boy, I've never seen Coco, but it seems like the young boy is all grown up in 2029 now. And he's like a young man, you know, he's no longer a kid, but he's got more swag and he's still got that guitar on his back, so good for him. Pixar also announced this weird little project called Ghost Market, and I haven't heard anything about that, but it sounds a little spooky. And apparently it's like set in Hawaii and whatnot, so like maybe Hawaii, a little bit of spooky elements. Yeah, like, okay, I wonder what that is. That's got me, piqued my interest a little bit. Me and my buddy were also talking about this one because we're going to be bringing his daughter, my niece Avery, and my other little niece Zoe, probably summer 2028, to go see Lilo and Stitch 2. Earlier this year, we went and saw Lilo and Stitch, the live-action one, and it looks like they're going to be bringing in the pink Stitch for Lilo and Stitch 2. I think her name's Angel or something like that, or yeah, something like that. Pixar also showed footage of their new movie Gato, and that will be coming to theaters in March of 27. And this features like a stunning art style, and it's got like this cat And the director from Luca, and this black skinny cat is named Nero, and he's voiced by Mark Ruffalo, and I believe the white cat next to him there is voiced by Lawrence Fishburne, if I was hearing correctly. Obviously, I was not in the room at D23, but this is all the information that I was pulling coming out of D23, and there was a lot of it. Like, I didn't even really pull the information from the final day where they were all talking about like the Disney parks and whatnot. You know, I just kind of focused more on the movies and the shows and stuff like that. But Gatto looked kind of interesting, you know, with like Mark Ruffalo and whatnot, and that was something that came out, like got announced last year, and the art style for that looks beautiful, and it looks like maybe it's set in like Rome or something, or Italy. Yeah, interesting. Can't wait to see that. There was another animated movie last year that I believe won an Oscar, and it had like no words, but it like followed a cat as it like got sucked down like the river. I think it was called Flow or something like that. Comment below if you saw that cat movie. Then Disney had Walker Scoville out on stage talking about Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Season 3, I believe, is what they were talking about announcing here. And if I remember correctly, we watched Season 2 earlier this year, but I wasn't a huge fan of Season 2. I thought Season 1 was maybe better. They also announced that The Incredibles 3 will round out the trilogy, so this will probably be the last of the Incredible movies, which is kind of sad, but, you know, it's been, what, 20 years since the first one or something? But apparently, the superheroes are now legal for The Incredibles, and, like, they had, you know, pictures of, like, you know, the teams all together, and apparently the kids will be, like, more center stage and more the focus of this movie, and they'll be, like, the ones saving the day. But, yeah, can't wait to see the Incredibles back together, the actual Fantastic Four with Sam L. Jackson's Mr. Frozone or whatever. Yeah, so funny. Such good movies. Now, I've never seen the original animated Tangled, but the live-action Tangled is in the works with Catherine Hahn, and apparently she got one of the biggest pops of the night as she came out on stage, and she's going to be playing the witch, I don't know, like the villain of that movie. It's something Mother something, and she's like a witch, but it's going to be played by Catherine Hahn. That got me kind of excited to see. Then Jon Favreau was out on stage talking about a 2D animation project that is like kind of like the OG roots of Disney animation, with this character called Oswald, which apparently was supposed to be like the original design for Mickey, but they ended up going with something else. So this whole movie is about like the original Mickey, you know what I mean? I don't know. But it also feels like it's kind of like a 2D animation in a live action world, so it's kind of like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I didn't know Jon Favreau was working on this, but shout out Jon Favreau, always doing something interesting, and he's got that 2D animation Oswald project in the works, and the footage that got released from that looked really interesting. Then he was also talking about his Nat Geo project called Lion, and apparently this shares a journey of a lion in Mother Nature over like 4 years, and they really were able to just capture this baby lion growing up in the real, you know, Serengeti or whatever, in the real world. They follow this lion for 4 years, and that's what this project is about, following this lion from childhood to full-grown adulthood type of thing. And yeah, I'm sure this lion is ferocious and has all types of battles, and I'm actually, you know, I haven't watched a Nat Geo documentary like that in a long time. That one might be fascinating, you know, like I've been more so doing the David Attenborough and like My Planet, the planet in color, life on this planet, or whatever he calls them. But that voice, David Attenborough, I could listen to him talk about anything. They also announced that Frozen 3 was in the works, and of course it is. I mean, that's one of their biggest money-making pits that they have, right? Then this movie called Hexed, which I believe Haley Steinfeld is one of the witches, and it got announced that Jodie Foster and Walton Goggins are in the cast, and Jodie Foster is going to be like the main villain of Hexed. And I don't know if this is more like an animated Agatha All Along type of situation or what, but Walton Goggins being a part of this cast, and Jodie Foster and Haley Steinfeld, I mean, sign me up. That alone has me like, yeah, great cast. I can't wait to see more from it, you know, and I believe this comes out later this year. My buddy's been pretty big on this, and I'm sure me and my nieces will go and see this later this year. Shout out Hexed. But now to slide into some Marvel news, and D23, of course, had a big old Marvel panel, but at D23 they had a couple of costumes on display, one of them being Doctor Doom's second costume, because this isn't the original one that they had on display. The original one had 2 tassels on either shoulder. This one has just 1 tassel over the shoulder. So some people I even saw speculating today that is there 2 Doctor Dooms? I think it's more like Doctor Doom in his friendly, like, I'm a friend, I don't know what you mean. And then Doctor Doom in his full Doctor Doom, I am your doom. Right, like that armor, right? Like he's got his war armor and then he's got his friendly armor, you know what I mean? But this armor, for whatever reason, maybe it is a second Doctor Doom, and maybe Robert Downey Jr.'s buddy from his last film where he won an Oscar, maybe Cillian Murphy is the actual Doctor Doom in this whole situation, and Robert Downey Jr. is just kind of like the other Doctor Doom. I don't know, maybe there is 2, but no, I'm thinking it's just 2 different outfits. But if you look closer at this Doctor Doom outfit, the mask is also different. Like the original mask had rivets around the eyes, this one looks much more smooth, and like I don't like how you can see his like chin and his fucking mouth, and like it has like metal lips. I don't know, I don't like this mask. This mask makes me feel uncomfortable. But they also had some X-Men costumes on display with the Nightcrawler costume, and he has 2 swords in his hand. Will he also have a third sword being held by his tail? Maybe. But also the swords, some people were giving shit like, how could they MCUify swords? And it's like, God, you guys are such crybabies. The movie's not even out yet. We haven't even seen 1 glimpse of Nightcrawler in any of these trailers, and you guys are already like, it's terrible, it's MCUified. You guys just like to complain. Like, if you guys have valid complaints, it's one thing, but when you're complaining before there's even something to complain about, you guys suck. You just are shitty, terrible people. I love Nightcrawler. I can't wait to see him in live action. It seems like he has this like giant X logo on the front of his jacket there. It's like a trench coat too. I wish it was more like the X-Men 97 costume. I think that's like the best looking Nightcrawler we've gotten, but this is live action, so it's different, it's harder. It seems like he still has like his 3-fingered hands, you know, and maybe he has toes too, but he has shoes on, so maybe they were like, alright, we don't have to give you 3 toes, we'll give you some shoes. But Mystique's costume is more comic book accurate, but my biggest problem with Mystique that I saw in the trailer was like her face makeup was a little bit lighter blue than I was expecting, and she didn't quite look like the Mystique, you know, Rebecca Romijn from like that original X-Men X2 movie, and I think that's the best Mystique has looked in all of these live action films. And then the only other Marvel costumes on display was Red Guardian's like jumpsuit for the new Avengers, Shuri's Black Panther, Bob Sentry in his Bob attire, which just seems like some tube socks, some mandals, and like a robe. So like, at one point, will Bob actually become Sentry in this movie, or will he just be there useless the whole time? I don't know, but I'm sure that will be a fun role for Lewis Pullman either way. And then of course they have Sam Wilson's Captain America there as well. But like, so 2 new Avengers teams, or like 2 of the Thunderbolts team, and then maybe 2 people from the Avengers lineup. You know, so 2 new Avengers, 2 Avengers here on display. That's kind of interesting. But then Kevin Feige took the stage from Marvel, and they had a bunch to talk about, and they had brought out like RDJ, Haley Atwell, and Chris Evans that they brought out for that. But then Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds sent in like a video call trying to be like, we can offer our services for the movie if you guys aren't wrapped, like can we round out the cast, you know? And it seemed like just kind of fell flat in the room, and I don't know, here's the video, you tell me.
Wolverine. Who are you? Like what? That's both hurtful and spiteful. Why are you sitting?
Hey, Kevin. Hey, D23. Hope you're all having a great time. I just wanted to check in, just totally unprompted, and just wondering if you might need some help. Rounding
out
the
cast. Rounding out the cast? Dude, they've got like 28 people. Why the hell do they need us?
Because we're the golden ones. We're special. Now follow the fucking script.
So anyway, if you guys need some help rounding out the cast, I I'd love to join. And I don't know, I might be able to convince Ryan to appear in Avengers Doomsday, but no pressure. I hate you so much, man.
And me too.
So they also did like a kind of Ryan Reynolds Deadpool bit doing the same type of little bit at San Diego Comic-Con. So I really don't understand what that bit is. Maybe that's just them like soft confirming that Wolverine and Deadpool will be in the movie, or maybe that's them being like, oh, they won't be in the movie, but they're trying to get in the movie. I don't know, like maybe a post-credit scene they're in the movie or whatnot, but like Gambit's in the movie, so somebody would have had to bring Gambit to this universe, you know, like so maybe Loki and Deadpool are all like together at the TVA or something. I really don't know, but it does seem like a strange clip. And at this point, I am assuming that they are all going to be in Avengers Doomsday, especially Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe not as huge characters with a bunch of screen time, but I expect to see them alongside that X-Men universe. But they also put out a new Doomsday poster, and that new trailer for Avengers Doomsday that they originally showed at San Diego Comic-Con has now been released online, and there's a breakdown for that trailer currently out on the channel, so go check that out if you haven't. I really appreciate you guys. But there's a clip in that trailer that just looks absolutely unbelievable as Doom shoves back Thor and then sends like a green blast into the ground and arises all of the Sentinels behind him saying, "I am Doom," and he looks so badass. But in that trailer, there's just a shocking shot of Johnny Storm with like this all-white backdrop as he's holding his nephew, Franklin Storm. You know, like, oof, oh my goodness. Or Franklin Richards, you know, technically Reed's son, but, you know, he's his nephew. He's still a Storm at the end of the day. He's got the blonde hair like they do. But that shot makes me real nervous for them. And then, like, yeah, just absolutely insane that Doom, like, it seems like the X-Men and the Avengers defeat the Sentinels, but it doesn't matter because Doom just, like, makes them stand back up, like, almost like the Night King in Game of Thrones, where he just kind of, like, they defeat them all at Hardhome, and then he just goes, "Nope, stand back up, fight again, you're not dead yet, you're ready to go again." And like all of the people that they just lost as well is now a part of his dead army. Yeah, like all of these Sentinels have green glowing eyes as we see like that other Doctor Doom armor with like the rivets around the eyes and the 2 tassels on the chest. So like, you know, maybe there is 2 Doctor Dooms, or maybe he just like does a little magical outfit change at some point. I don't know, but it does seem like he's going to be the Doom for the X-Men, which makes me nervous. But then Kevin Feige brought out Paul Bettany and James Spader for the Visionquest panel, and they also released the Visionquest trailer for the first time online, and there's the breakdown and trailer breakdown and reaction for Visionquest currently out on the channel. Go check that video out as well. It was a busy weekend, y'all. But Visionquest looks really good, and honestly, I am so shocked how good it looks. And this is coming to Disney Plus October 14th, and the poster here for Visionquest looks so good with like Vision, and it's like partly Paul Bettany, but it's partly White Vision, and he's reading the newspaper, and then he's got partly Ultron, partly James Spader standing behind him. Oh man, and this is like rounding out the trilogy of WandaVision and Agatha All Along. And somebody's put this picture up online, they were like, I love that like they each have their own little constructs to work out their trauma, right? Like Wanda had the Hex, you know, Agatha had that whole down the witch's road trauma thing that she was working out there for Billy and her. And then now Vision seems to have a house in his head filled with all the other AIs from his past and all these pieces that make up Vision as he tries to discover who he really is. And he discovers that like he maybe has a family that he had out there, and that was like started in WandaVision, then expanded the story into Agatha All Along, and then is now continuing into Visionquest. It also seems like Vision is going to be returning back to his red form and getting a whole new costume with like this red and green look, with also like this golden cape and like this golden collar. He looks really good. Honestly, I think this is my favorite looking Vision. I can't wait to get a Hot Toys figure of it. Yeah, like the gold trim on the suit that almost looks like it's glowing as he like flipped through the air. Yeah, like Vision looks awesome right now. I just hope that that's not the suit up shot in the finale. You know what I mean? They wait till the episode 6 to be like, oh look, he's Vision again. Like, oh god, you know, like I hate when they make us wait for like the hero suit up scene. It's like, come on, not everything needs to be like an origin story that leads to that. You know, it's just so predictable. But his little AI friends that live in his head here, we got left to right, we have Friday in her human form, Jarvis, who we saw as Jarvis the chauffeur for Howard Stark in Avengers Endgame, and also as Jarvis in Captain Carter, I believe, or, you know, Agent Carter, the show. Then we have 2 handymen that are You and Dummy, which I believe are like Tony's old AI things that he made, which is just funny that like all these things are like incorporated into the show. And then it looks like Vision is going to be finding his son, right? So he's going to be having this like battle in his head, in like the house in his mind, and then he's also going to be dealing with a bounty hunter on the outside of it, like in the real world, hunting him down, and his son, who is Speed, who Ruri Malika, I believe that's how you say his name, and he's going to be playing Speed in the MCU now. And I believe this is the same character who was in WandaVision, but then we saw in Agatha All Along that the consciousness of that kid went into a body of somebody who was drowning, and that who Speed in Visionquest, I believe, is. So maybe, just maybe, we'll also see Wiccan and Agatha All Along, you know, Agatha Harkness, in Visionquest. I hope, but maybe not. But I just love that James Spader, he's such a good actor. I love that he's like at D23, and like I believe this is Paul Bettany, Terry Matalas, who's like the showrunner of Visionquest, and then James Spader, and he looks so much better in the Visionquest. He has such big, long, white, thick beard. He looks so much better shaved up. He looks a lot more like Raymond Reddington right now. My other favorite role with James Spader. But James Spader is going to be back as Ultron, but maybe in his Ultron form at times, but also in his human form of Ultron, just being James Spader, which I love because obviously James Spader played Ultron in Age of Ultron. So it's been many years, and now he's coming back to star in this show with Paul Bettany. I just think it's going to be awesome, and I'm fascinated to see more about it, and that's coming October. So stay tuned for another couple months, and we'll be breaking down that show on the channel. But then, the biggest news from D23, Marvel announced their X-Men cast, and it is a good one. As you probably saw the title and thumbnail, and I'm sorry if you waited this long just to talk about the X-Men. I hope you didn't skip ahead past all the other things we talked about, but if you did, the X-Men cast is now official, and the first person, obviously, is Sadie Sink, as confirmed from Spider-Man Brand New Day, that Sadie Sink will be Jean Grey, and then a couple of these got confirmed by Hollywood Reporter and like Variety and Deadline last week. So Kit Connor is officially Cyclops. Samara Weaving is officially Emma Frost, which is perfect casting for her. Like, Emma Frost is by far the most perfect casting I've ever seen in my life. Like, Samara Weaving is that character, and at all the posts that she's been doing since, like, she's been reading Emma Frost comics, and she just seems like she's such a fucking vibe. I love Samara Weaving already. Now, something I'm not so in love with is Christopher Abbott as Professor X. You know, I think he's a good actor, but I wasn't quite sure he was a Professor X kind of guy. You know, I was seeing him more as like maybe a Wolverine or maybe a Beast, you know, maybe not as big and jacked as those characters need to be. And I'm thinking Beast should really be Peter Claffey, aka Sir Duncan the Tall from A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. That is my fan-casted Beast at the current moment. That character is still not confirmed, so that could still happen. But Christopher Abbott, Professor X. Indy Navarrete from Obsession is going to be playing Rogue. I love this casting as well, and this is controversial online. The Kaylee Spaney fans are really trying to stand up for her. They thought she should have been Rogue, but no, I think Indy Navarrete is excellent casting for Rogue. Also, a surprise casting that I wasn't expecting. Maya Boyd is Storm. I don't necessarily know Maya Boyd. I was told that she was a theater and like a Broadway actress more so than like the movies and stuff that I like to be watching. But maybe I'll have to go check out a Broadway play to see Maya Boyd, because she looks drop dead gorgeous for Storm, and I can't wait to see her Storm. I hope she also has like a role in Black Panther 3. Imagine Storm and T'Challa Jr. have this little love relationship. Oh, I would love to see that. But also Maya Boyd is maybe slightly younger than Jamie Lawson in some of the other fan castings, and I'm really glad that it's not Cynthia Erivo, but maybe somebody that's just as talented. But Maya Boyd seems a spot-on casting for Aurora Monroe. I hope she gets her own movie. I hope she gets a big role in Black Panther 3, and I hope that this X-Men crew does the character of Storm correctly. But also, like, X-Men 97, Storm is such like a theatrical person. Mistress of the elements, heed my command. You know, like, she is like this over-the-top character, especially in that show. So if Maya Boyd plays her like that, I am totally on board. But then it seems the main villain for this X-Men cast will be Adam Driver, aka Kylo Ren from Star Wars, the post-sequel trilogy. And Adam Driver sent in a little video. He was like the only one that wasn't standing on stage, and he sent in a video saying that I'm Mag, and he like was teasing that he's Magneto, but then backed out and he goes, nope, sorry, I'm really Nathaniel Milbury, right? Like, he didn't even say that he's going to be playing Mr. Sinister. He did his like alias name, Nathaniel Milbury. It almost felt like he wanted to push up his nerdy glasses in the middle of his nose as he said it. I'm playing Nathaniel Milbury. But Adam Driver is a very good actor, so I'm sure he's going to crush this role, and it seems like this is something he really wanted to do, and he's a comic book fan of Mr. Sinister. So it seems like this is perfect casting for Adam Driver, and there's still plenty of casting that they haven't confirmed. Like Magneto, my fan casting is Hayden Christensen. I still think that would be phenomenal. I don't know if Christopher Abbott is really Professor X for me, but I'm sure once I see him with a shaved head and hear him speak, the character might come to life for me. But we also still need like a Wolverine, a Morph, a Nightcrawler. Who else are we missing? Jubilee, Psylocke, Colossus, Beast, Mystique, Gambit. So there's still quite a few X-Men people that haven't been announced yet, but the director for this will be the Thunderbolts director, Jake Schreier. The writers are from Beef, who also did the Thunderbolts movie as well, I believe, and they'll be working on Marvel X-Men, and they got a release date of May 5th, 2028. On Cinco de Mayo, 2028, I will be in theaters seeing Marvel's new X-Men lineup, and they got like a new logo with like this yellow X, and yeah, so May 5th, 2028, there's now 4 comic book movies coming to theaters in 2028, which is so exciting. The Batman Part 2 will be one of them, which I got my shirt on for. X-Men movie, Ghost Rider, and Black Panther 3. So 3 Marvel movies in 2028. That's exciting as well. And 2 of them being like new characters that we haven't seen. And like, well, technically Black Panther 3 will also be a new character we haven't seen. But at least that one's like a trilogy, and that one should have Ryan Coogler and Shuri, and that will have M'Baku and like characters that we still know, where like Ghost Rider should be all new characters, X-Men will be all new characters, Batman Part 2 seemingly could be a bunch of new characters, but I'm so ready for the Batman Part 2. That should have came out 5 years ago at this point. But just to end it out, the last day of D23 was more about the parks, but there was also like this Spider-Man panel talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2, and that will be coming to Disney Plus January of 2027, and they got a couple images here of like the artwork for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2, and it seems like Lonnie Lincoln's going to be back. Maybe Gwen Stacy will be becoming Spider-Gwen. Maybe Flash Thompson's also in there. Maybe Silk, Lady Silk Spider-Man, Doc Ock, Norman Osborn. Yeah, it seems like the villains are going to be Doc Ock, Rhino, Lizard's going to be in there. That's interesting as well. And we know Norman's also going to be lurking around, maybe becoming the Green Goblin. But then the final image they showed from like this little teaser was that Peter will get infected by the symbiote spider. You know what I mean? By like the Venom symbiote, and he will become Venom in this show and like be infected by Venom, and like he has the spider symbol, and it looks really cool. But like, ooh, I wasn't expecting for them to do Venom already for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2. Maybe they just started like, let's do all the ideas. We don't know how many seasons we're going to get. I have a feeling that Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will continue on. I feel like Season 1 was great, and much along the lines of like X-Men 97, they're going to be doing more animation, and I feel like that show's pretty safe, but maybe they need Season 2 to really, you know, be a hit in the ratings. So they're like, yeah, we're going to have Doc Ock, Lizard, we're going to have Rhino, all of your favorites. Green Goblin, Venom, they're all there, baby. Like, maybe they're setting up like a Sinister Six for that poor Spider-Man to deal with. But also, like, the way they did Lonnie Lincoln in that show, Tombstone, was just done so well. Like, honestly, really good stuff. But that's it for me today, y'all. And this has been a long weekly nerdy news covering everything from D23. And I would love to hear your thoughts about everything we talked about today. Marvel Studios' new X-Men cast, Visionquest, Avengers Doomsday, Ahsoka Season 2, all of the D23EXPO panel news that we talked about, Star Wars, Marvel, Harry Potter, James Bond, HBO, tons of stuff we talked about today, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below, or you can message me on my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. And if you've made it this far into the video and you would like to support the channel further, the best way of doing that is smashing the like button, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting that bell so you don't miss next week's Comically Boston podcast, where every Monday we discuss the weekly nerdy news, and you'll get the notifications when those come out. Once again, my name is Big Cam, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next video. Peace!